This is a video to show you the difference when you use the customize option to set your freeze and dry times with the touchpad Harvest Right Home freeze dryer. On the home screen you can see the set date, time, customize, and start. And the clock at the top right shows you the time of the day, the date, the number of minutes or hours, combination underneath that, which is all zeros right now, and the version of update that you have below that. And mine is the V2.2.2. So if I want to customize and lengthen either my freeze and or my dry time, use customize. Just tap that once and you can see that prior to this video I had set my freeze time at 8.5 hours, my final dry at 8. The preset times from the manufacturer is a 9-hour freeze and a 7-hour final dry. So I don't typically use the 7-hour final dry because I just want to guarantee that my food is dry when the screen says complete versus having to add dry time after the cycle has completed. And that does happen. To me it happened on many occasions, so I don't do any of my cycles with less than a 8-hour final dry. Not that everybody has to do that, it's just the way it's worked out for me. So I'm going to change my freeze time to 9 hours and 15 minutes because I am actually putting in some home canned chicken breasts that I did. It is not pre-frozen, and that is only because my home upright freezer is not working quite as it should, waiting on repairs. Because I typically pre-freeze everything that I put in my freeze dryer. So I'm setting the freeze time at 9:15. Now you could do the opposite and go less than that. Let's say you've frozen your food solid for a good 24 hours or more. You could lower your freeze time to a 7-hour time frame if your food is frozen solid. But mine isn't. Mine's straight out of my mason jars of cans of chicken that I did. So I'm going to go back to the 9 hours and 15 minutes. The final dry time, 8 hours is fine, I believe, because cooked meats do not take as much dry time as raw. If it had been raw chicken, I would definitely put a 9-hour final dry time. So, the two options that you have here, you can either tap done or you can tap start custom. If you tap start custom, you're going to see a screen that you don't typically see. Some of my members in my Facebook group get a little confused that they're seeing a new screen they hadn't seen before. It's just a difference between tapping the Start Custom or Done. So if I tap Start Custom, this screen comes up. It's reminding us to close the drain valve. Let me just go over here and make sure that my drain valve is closed. And of course it is because the knob is pointing straight up. So come back over here to the display screen. And it shows this. So I closed my drain valve. Let me hit continue. This is when you see this screen. It says freeze time remaining, and it's a countdown of your time left remaining for your freeze time. After this, and I'm going to actually tap the clock so that you can tell, it will come your next cycle, which is the pre-drying cycle. Then after the pre-drying cycle is your final dry. So let me just, for fun, I'll tap this to go into my pre-drying cycle. If you can hear me here, this is when you see the estimated time remaining at 29.5 hours. The vacuum pressure is at 2,500 because it has not reached a vacuum yet. But I'm not going to stay here. I just wanted you to see that this is when you see this countdown time of your estimated time remaining for drying. What I'm going to do is to come back here, because it's just the simplest thing to do, and you can't see in the dark, I guess, but I'm actually turning my unit off with a switch on the back. So let me go to the back and turn it back on so that you can see when the screen comes back on, it's going to ask you a question after it says writing log files, which just really updates. It's a good quick way to update your machine and not really recalibrate it, it just updates. So now it says that previous job was not completed properly. Job will resume in, as you can see, it started at 1 minute, now it's counting down. So if I wanted it to proceed right there at the beginning of that dry cycle, I could tap proceed. But I'm not, because remember, I skipped over the freeze cycle so that you could see what happens when it dries. So I'm going to tap cancel, because of course I don't want it to start there. Okay, I already set my customized time. As you can see here, it goes back, reverts back if I were to start over, at the 8.5 that I had originally and the 8-hour dry. So let me kick it back up to 9:15. And instead of hitting Start Custom, I'm not hitting, but tapping, I'm going to tap Done. And when you tap Done, the home screen comes up. Now if you tap Start, remind you to close the drain valve again, tap Continue, and you're going to see this screen instead of the previous countdown screen. This one shows freezing for 9 hours 15 minutes, which is what I set it at. And over here underneath the clock, you can see that it's actually counting up on the minutes and hours that it has been in the freezing cycle, instead of above here where it was counting down by tapping the Customize Start. So there's two different options. It really depends on which screen you prefer. To me, it doesn't really matter. It's just what I happen to tap on that day at that time. This will work just fine. Now let me go ahead and skip this freeze cycle again so that you can see what happens after that. Now this is the screen that you see by tapping that Start initially instead of the Start Custom. So as you can see, it just says drying. But up here in the top right corner, it would say the number of hours that it was in freezing and the drying time combined, and it's counting up. So there's your couple different screens that you now can see how they change and how they work. Let me go ahead and turn my machine off again. I could tap the clock until it went back to the home screen, but by turning it off in the back, I just skip a couple of steps. Okay, now this is refreshing again, writing the log files. Now I'm going to cancel the previous option that I had with the motor was running and it was actually going into the dry cycle. And of course I need it to go back to the freeze cycle. So I'm going to tap Customize again, bring it back up to my 9:15 that I want for my freeze time. And I'm going to choose the option of Done instead of Start Custom. And I'm going to choose Start. Close the drain valve, which I already did. And this is the way the screen shows by doing those options. So I hope this helps. I do run a Harvest Right Home Freeze Dryers Facebook group called Harvest Right Freeze Dryers. The link will be in the description box. If you're interested in learning more about freeze drying at home, come join us. We'd be glad to have you. The link will be in below. Thank you for watching.